this all works. And then we can say, hello, how are you? It's good to see you all. We will officially start in 2 minutes, but there are so many of you joining here. We've got some on Zoom. We've got some on StreamYard, on Facebook. So I just wanted to take a second to say hello and see how everybody is doing and where you're coming from. We got some from Michigan. I'm coming in from Denver. Where else are we coming from? Put in the chat bar. Ooh, that was hot. Sorry. And as I said, I am really fired up for today's conversation. And as you can tell, not quite as maybe put together as I normally am. Today is, I just have to tell you, today is the first day of school for my sophomore, my boy, Liam, my firstborn. And he's going to school Monday, Thursdays, 8 to noon in these tiny little pods. They've got temperature checks at the door. They're not going to their lockers. It's a whole different experience. Talk about trying to innovate and adjust and kind of give the kids what they need at the same time, being smart and safe. It's been fascinating to watch. But today was kind of a big morning, and I had to drive him to school. He was super nervous. He wouldn't even drive. He's got a permit. So anyway, that's why I've got no virtual background today. I'm like, I barely got makeup on. It's a big day in our house. Big day. Sarah's coming from Indy. Oh, we got Maine coming in. Oh, love the coast of Maine. Love me some lobster. Maine is beautiful. The coast is amazing. The fall. So I lived in New York City for 2 years, and I loved the fall. Excuse me. Okay, it's 9 o'clock my time, so let's get started. Welcome to today's burst of innovation. I am super fired up to dig into today's conversation, which is about the box that we're in being self-imposed, and what we expose ourselves to is ultimately what becomes our box. And I've got a personal story to share for you around this, and I'm really fired up. Before I do that, I just want to talk about one tech thing for those of you who've been with me forever, and for those of you who are new. We are going to move off Zoom and on to StreamYard, which allows us to stream it directly to our Facebook groups, both our membership groups, so your everyday innovators, and to our leadership and innovation group. The reason we're doing that, because I know some of you are like, oh, Tamara, I'm not even on Facebook. I hate it. I get it. But the reason we're doing that is because it actually allows me to interact with you more and allows me to enhance the experience for you. It's a little bit challenging to manage all the different platforms, and that causes my focus to be distracted and looking in 3 different places. And I want to be focused on you. StreamYard also allows me to do some cool things, like I can actually show your question if you post it on the Facebook group. I can actually show your question on the screen, or show your incredible insight on the screen. So I know some of you aren't on Facebook, and I'm sorry, I really, it is really, I'm doing this to enhance everybody's experience and to be able to connect with you more and to bring more relevant topics. We have a couple people who have fake accounts, like if their name is Bob on Facebook, they're Billy Bob with no information whatsoever, just so they can join this stuff. So there are solutions to it. I know it's not ideal for everybody, but I want to serve you all in the best way I possibly can. Okay, I will send out an email with all that. I'm not asking you to remember it. I just wanted to say it out loud for all of us first. Yeah, I know, Stephen. I get it. I totally get it. Okay, so let's make today count, shall we? All right. I told you I'm fired up about today. I'm so fired up about today. Okay. So your box is self-imposed. So let me tell you where this came from, and then the experience that really made me realize how important it is. And, oh, by the way, how much control we have in changing the box that we're in. So I was interviewing a colleague of mine who owns a sales company. Her name is Merritt. Actually, I streamed her live on Facebook. It's going out on the podcast. You can listen to that later. So I'm interviewing her, and afterwards we're having this offline conversation about how challenging it is for some of our colleagues to shift and adapt. So our colleagues are all in the live event space in some way or another, whether they're keynote speakers or trainers or thought leaders. Like really the business that we were all in was live. So I'm talking to her offline, and I'm like, God, you know, it's fascinating for me to see how hard it is for our group of people to shift. And I said, you know, I wonder why people like you and me shifted pretty rapidly. She actually built an online academy. And as you all know, I built the Everyday Innovators Tribe. We do these 10-minute bursts, like the entire business model shifted. But I said, why do you think that is? And she said something that really got me thinking over the weekend that I really wanted to relay to all of you. She said, you know, Tamara, she goes, they're all really smart people. So I don't think it's that. She said, I think it's because they're just not exposed to as much as you and I have been. She said, you know, they're all talking to themselves. They're talking to each other, and they all come from the same vantage point. She said, you and I kind of got out there and started exposing ourselves to different business models, different ideas, different people. And that's what led us to the place we're in. She goes, I think it's just a matter of exposure. And I got thinking, oh my gosh, could it really be that simple? Could it be just a matter of your box, all these walls? I got to do a little drawing for you guys, right? All these walls that you create, which becomes your box. And by the way, we all have a box of some kind, don't we? Right? But this box that you create, all of this is just self-imposed based on the exposure that we give ourselves. So let me relay a story for you that I think shows you why the power of what you expose yourself to becomes your box. And I really want you to think about who and what you can expose yourself to change the shape of your box. I changed the shape of my box. Merit changed the shape of her box as we went through this change and this uncertainty. And those other people we're talking about, guess what? They're still in this box. They haven't changed the shape because they haven't exposed themselves to new ways of thinking and new ideas. So I'm going to totally pull back the curtain and kind of give you this funny timeline of events that led to me changing my box to, I'd say, right? My box looks more like, we're going to call it like this. This is my box, right? It looks totally different from what it did. Okay, so, and as I'm sharing this story, here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about what or who that is outside your daily world could you expose yourself to change the shape of your box, to give it new exposure, new walls, maybe even make it bigger. So here's the story of how I got to the Everyday Innovators Tribe, the membership platform. So basically shifting my business from live to truly a technology and online-based business. And we're still building and learning and experimenting. So I'm not saying we're done. As someone I was listening to a podcast said this morning, focused but not finished, right? I love that phrase. But I want to explain how we got there, because really at the end of the day was all about moments of exposure. And that's something we can all add to our lives very simply. So it started with a conversation I was having with my colleague, Chris. And I was saying to Chris, and this was in March. I was like, March. I said, I feel like I need to shift, but I'm not sure what to do. I mean, I could do webinars, like I could take my keynotes and I could make them webinars, or maybe I could do videos that people subscribe to. I'm sure you see it. I was thinking inside this box, just like all my other colleagues, because this is all we knew, right? We knew the same people, the same information. We had the same experiences. We have the same data. So my ideas, right, were in here. My ideas were inside the same box I'd always had. Then, no joke, a day later, I called another colleague of mine, Angela, who owns a wellness and health business, because I was actually referring her, funny enough, to a virtual keynote that she'd be great for. And I said, hey, what are you up to? And she was telling me how she is doing this program, and it's all about launching a membership and what a membership really looks like and how you actually build one, not just a subscription model, but like truly a community-based membership. And I was like, wait, what? What is this world that you speak of that I've never heard? And she's going on and on. I'm like, oh my gosh, that just opened up my eyes and totally changed my box, right? Now I'm exposed to whole new business models I hadn't really gotten a hold of before. So then I call Chris and I say, Chris, I've got this. I just had this conversation with Angela. She explained to me this new thing. Now Chris's box has changed, right? Because she's been exposed to new things. And then I called Merit and I said, oh my gosh, right? You got to hear about this, blah, blah, blah. Now her box has changed and she's been exposed to all new things. So I share that story because what we expose ourselves to becomes the shape of the box that we put ourselves in. And oftentimes we stay right? In this little kind of box of exposure. It's this big. And so our ideas and the things that we think about, right? Our decisions, our opinions, they're all in this little box, right? Then we expose ourselves to new things and we go one rung out, two rungs out, whatever it is. And suddenly that box gets bigger and probably starts to change maybe some shapes a little bit because of exposure. It's all about exposure. It is very tough to be innovative when we're all looking at the same box in the same way with the same people, all of that, right? And then we expect this new, different idea to come out. We need to rearrange the box that we're in. So how do we rearrange it to give it a new shape? We expose ourselves to new and different things, different leadership styles, different business models, different ways to solve problems. It's part of the reason we're all here, isn't it? So here's my question for you that I want you to write in the chat bar. And if you're on Facebook, I'll see it too because it's on StreamYard. I can see all the streams. And if you're on Zoom, put it in here. How are you going to expose yourself to new things? What's a business model, a business, an idea, a person that's maybe one rung or two rungs out that you can expose yourself to that maybe could help you look at your box in a different way? I want you to put that in the chat bar. I'm going to take a sip of coffee while you do that because I know there's a delay. Ooh, hot. How can you expose yourself? What or who can you expose yourself to? Let's swap ideas here. Sometimes we're so stuck in our boxes, we kind of aren't even sure how to look in a different place. So if you've got some ideas, share it. And that'll give us more ideas. So for me, right, I was talking to this woman, Angela, who's launching a different business model. And then I reached out to another person I know who has a totally different business model than me, but is in the same kind of general of like, you know, using their experience to give advice and ideas and bettering people. I reached out to someone who has a brick and mortar business because they're also in the human performance field, right? I'm in it in the mindset way and the tools of innovation way, and they're in it in the body way. That started exposing me to new ways of thinking. Okay, Sarah just wrote, my most creative friend in Chicago and my husband, an attorney. Yes, attorneys are great because they will poke holes in everything too. Hold on, let me read that. And my husband, attorney, just did this over the weekend. And Sarah, let me ask you a question. Did it give you some new ideas? Did it give you some new ways of thinking in talking to them? Christine said, joined Future Trends Forum. Oh, is that Jeremy Gucce's forum? Is that Future Trends? He's great, by the way. Higher end focus, but full of things that see what is beyond the box. Yeah, exactly. Brian Alexander. Okay, I don't know him. That's great. I love that, Christine. And again, same question to you. Doesn't that open up the box and maybe change its shape a little bit? When I think about where I am today, the credit goes to my colleague, Angela, who actually was exposed to something new. And that exposure, by the way, as I shared my story, that has a trickle-down effect, right? Angela spoke to me. I spoke to Chris. I spoke to Merritt. Chris spoke to somebody else. Like, the exposure doesn't even have to be direct. It can be indirect. But when Merritt said that to me about our colleagues struggling so hard to keep up with the change that we're experiencing and really hustling for pennies, peeps, they're hustling for pennies. They are hustling to find their relevancy and they barely found it. Why? Because they're in that same tiny box in the center, not exposing themselves to new people, new ideas, new thinking. And they're all brilliant people in their way. Don't get me wrong. The things that they share are brilliant, but they got to get out of that one little box to try to expand it, to try to rearrange the box to expose themselves. Right? Mia says, it's exactly how I found you. Woo! In January, I started listening to business podcasts and other ones to expose me to new ways of thinking. Oh my gosh, I love that, Mia. I'm putting that up because that's so great, right? So you expose yourself to me. I bring a new way of thinking. Mia, you take that to your work and to your clients, right? It's so, in some ways, it's almost too simple, isn't it? We just got to expose ourselves to new things. But here is what I want you to do. I want you to be intentional. Imagine for a moment, just to throw myself under the bus, imagine for a moment if I had been intentional about exposing myself to new ideas and new thinking. Now, I do that on a regular basis. I mean, I'm in the space of innovation. I try to lead with curiosity, but that happened accidentally. But it happened because I lead with curiosity and I'm open-minded, which I know all of you have and are as well, right? We got to be open to new ideas. We got to be receptive to the different things and different thinking people bring to us. That is key to all this. But here's what I want you to do. This week, I want you to be super intentional about it. And I want you to expose yourself to 3 new things: conversations with people, ideas, different business models. And oh, by the way, you don't have to like go out and try to get a phone call with these people and get 60 minutes of their time. If there's a business out there, you can follow them. You can watch how they do things. You can stalk them. I stalk different businesses and people all the time because they bring me new ideas. Let's be intentional. Let's be intentional about our self-imposed box. If it's going to be self-imposed, which it is, right? Because it's what we create. It's the people we speak to, the perspectives we look at, the conversations we have. Let's go a rung out so that we have more box to work with, so that we can rearrange the box. Let's expose ourselves to more. That's how we're going to do this. All right. Mia also says, yeah, I agree with you. Traveling has been a powerful tool in my box. Different cultures, different ways of living, help spark new ideas in my businesses. Totally agree. You know, I have to tell you, this is on a personal note. We traveled a lot when I was a kid, a lot internationally. And I'm really thankful to that. Now, if you look at the photos from when I'm like 15 and 18, and every photo I'm all, I want to be here with my parents. But sorry, parents. I know it's the worst, right? I was the worst. But that exposure allowed me to recognize that there are different ways of doing things. There is an incredible TED Talk that I want you to watch on that note. This is what I want to close out with. And it's from a guy named Derek Sivers, D-E-R-E-K, I think S-I-V-E-R-S. And if you type in Derek Sivers, weird or different, it'll come up. I'm not going to spoil it, but let me just say this. His question is it weird or is it just different? And the layer I want to add on to that for all of us is, and what can we learn from the things that are different from us? That's how we change our box. All right. What questions do you have for me? I know I'm a little bit over, but you know, when I get fired up, it's hard for me to close down. It's hard for me to not keep going. This weekend, as I had this long drive, it was like 3 hours this weekend. That's long for me, 3 hours. And I just had a little bit of a mind-blowing moment of, oh my gosh, if the reason some people are able to shift and some people aren't is simply of a matter of exposure, there's other things, of course, but if that is a big layer on the package, why don't we just expose ourselves to new things? Oh, Christine put the Future Trends Forum in the chat bar. Here, I'm going to put it on the Facebook one too. Let me put it in there so you can see that too, because I thought that was a great suggestion. Apparently I cannot do that right now. I will do that later. Apparently won't let me. Okay. I'll figure that part out later. Trade show association webinars. Yep. Great. Excellent. I love that. Yeah. Looking at your local businesses. Exactly. Right. You never know. So that one's fascinating to me because I think that's a real-time case study in how some are really figuring out how to thrive in this new world and some of them are flailing. Some of that is out of our control and some of it is in, which, by the way, that's what I talk a little bit about on Wednesday, I think, is control versus influence versus out of control, because in the spot of control and influence is where you find innovation. And we don't focus enough on the parts we can influence. We get too black and white, control, not control, control, not control. But there's this incredible space in between that has incredible room to innovate. So if that topic sounds good to you, by the way, something like you want to figure out because we can work through it, let me know in the chat bars and I will make sure to make that Wednesday's conversation. All right. Be intentional. Expose yourself to new things. Allow yourself the opportunity to change and grow and rearrange and alter the box you're in simply by exposing yourself to new things. Okay. With that, we are done. And I know that the shift to StreamYard is a big one and I get it. Like I said, it didn't wasn't a decision we here at LaunchStreet made lightly. It really is a matter of being able to best serve our communities and do it in a way that really enhances your experience. And we really want to keep doing that. Wednesdays will still be on Zoom, so we're not going to make the shift till next week. I will email you, of course, about it. I know it's sad for some of us who aren't on Facebook, and believe me, I get it. Here's the good news, by the way, Stephen, I know you put it in there. I'd love to have you live because I love all your participation. We put our 10-minute bursts on our website. So usually takes us 24 to 48 hours. So we can't interact there, but you can see it there. I know it's not the same. I get it, but you still get the incredible content and the insights and the value, because I would never want to take that away from anyone. Because we need that, right? We need to turn obstacles into opportunity. We need to turn uncertainty into success. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it is so true and so possible. And let me just, okay. I'm about to go off. Are you guys ready? Are we all ready for me to just say something? When I talk to people and they say, Tamara, I can't believe you were able to shift so fast. Like, kudos to you. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still like just building some big technology, right? Here's the thing. I did it because I have the lens of innovation on, and because I have this community, all of you, to constantly bounce stuff off of. You know, people always ask me if I'm lonely not being on stages anymore. No, I feel like I've got my people. I'm good. But more than that, that uncertainty turned into success, turned into innovation. That obstacles turned into opportunity because of all these things that we're talking about. So leverage it, do the work, do the intention behind it. Don't let it happen accidentally, right? This is your chance to carve a new path. Here's the thing that's so awesome about times like today. I would never wish this on any of us, and I do not mean to minimize the pain and the frustration from a health and a business perspective this is put on all of us. Believe me, I get it. But the paths that we had in front of us are gone, right? The paths that we used to get where we are gone. So that sucks. But the good news is it also means that we get to decide what the paths moving forward look like, because the rules are gone. It's not even that they've changed. We're still trying to figure out the rules. A friend of mine got me a t-shirt that says rule maker, which I love because I thought, I'm not just a rule breaker. I want to make my own rules. And that's the chance we all have. All right. 3 exposures intentionally. And with that, Tamara out. Good to see you all this Monday. As you can tell, I am on fire today.